Hello everybody, welcome to Midwest Imagery. Today I'd like to show you how you can add another type of photography to your bag of tricks. In this one we're going to be using 3 bracketed exposures to combine into one image with a different software, and then we'll pull it into Photoshop to polish it up a little bit if we need to. The photography is called high dynamic range. It's HDR for short, and all this means is that we're bracketing our 3 shots, and bracketing just means that you're making one exposure at the indicated exposure, one stop over, and one stop under. So then you have all of the highlight detail, midtone detail, and shadow detail in one image when we combine them. My camera has a setting on it that's called auto exposure bracketing, and you can do this handheld if you don't have a tripod, and all you have to do is go into your manual or search on the interweb and see how do you access your auto exposure bracketing function. And what that does then is each time you depress your shutter release button, it'll burn 3 frames. It'll be bracketed, one over, one under, and one indicated. And then each time you press your shutter release button, you have to hold it down till the 3 frames expose. Just don't forget to turn that off when you're done with this project. And if you have a tripod that you can put your camera on, that works probably a little bit better, but you can do it handheld too. And then on a tripod it's just the same thing. Instead of using your auto exposure bracketing, you just change your exposure with the shutter speed. The ISO and the aperture stay the same because we want the depth of field the same throughout all 3 shots. So in this method you put your camera on the tripod and dial in your exposure, indicated, make a shot, do another exposure at 1 under with your shutter speed, and make the shot, then change your shutter speed till you're 1 over, till your meter shows that you're 1 over, and then make that shot. Then you import them into your laptop, computer, wherever you put them, and then I'll show you how we do it from there. So let me just get set up a little bit and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and what I'm going to do is select these 3 thumbnails of this same scene, and what these pictures show is an indicated exposure, 1 over and 1 under. So I'm just going to hold my shift key and click on the end one, click and drag these down to the application, which is Photomatics Pro, and let it do its thing, which is pretty much click through all the way. I'm going to use all the settings default until the last page, and then we'll look at the presets. So now it's converting and aligning the shots and stacking them together. And here's our stacking, and this is the deghosting options, but there isn't any really movement that's not super aligned here, so I'm just going to click right through that one again too. And here is our rough HDR shot. We have all of these presets over here. Let's see what some of them look like. And we can also just change the settings within any of these presets too. Painterly looks good. Let's try that one. But if you wanted to, you can come over to these settings and change all this different stuff here. I have found that the presets are okay, and I can do a lot of this changes in post. Well, now this looks good with the sky for sure, but we can do that in post too. So I'm going to say finish, click on the finish button, And I'm not going to do any of this sharpening or anything here. Just going to click done. Okay, so I'm going to just close it, save it, save it, and it should open right in Photoshop, which it does. Now, there's a couple things on this picture that we have to clean up first. I was using a filter on my lens, so I've got some vignetting in the corners, and I want to get rid of this little piece of concrete here. So I'm going to do that with my clone stamp tool before we really get to the adjusting. And I'm going to do it right on the background layer here because this is a raw file, so it's lossless. So I'm going to get my stamp tool, which is the letter S, and I'll make my brush bigger with the bracket key. And with the clone stamp tool, you hold the option key to sample an area, like right there. Then I click, and then I'll bring my brush over into here, and we're just going to paint this part out quickly like that. And then I'm going to zoom in, Command plus, so that I can see what I'm doing. And I'll sample somewhere over here now, maybe right there, and make my brush a little bit smaller. Coming up over in here. And then I'll sample this rock edge. That way we can keep it pretty lined up. Like that. And then I'll go right up in through here. And fix this. I don't want any repeating patterns like I'm seeing right here. So I'll just fix that a little bit. And then we will clean this piece up. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go over and get this little vignette right here. Just click, paint the corner. Same thing up here. Make my brush a little bigger. Click, paint this corner. And the same thing with this corner. And since we're here, we can also take care of sensor dirt that I see a little bit right there because I maybe didn't clean my sensor as often as I should. Because this is a pretty easy way to pull those spots off of there too. There's another one right there, there. And I think that looks pretty good. So there's our good starting point. We have 3 images sandwiched together, and now I'm going to duplicate this layer, Command J, and run a filter. I'm going to bring it back into Camera Raw as a filter, and we'll see what Photoshop thinks it should look like. It doesn't make too many changes here. So what I might do is come down here to the saturation and lift that up a little bit. Just like that. And I think that looks pretty good. We'll say OK. Click on the OK button. And here we go. There's our little bit of changes. Just enough of a little punch. I'm going to rename this layer ACR so I can keep track of what I'm doing. And ACR just means Adobe Camera Raw. So now I'm going to merge these 2 layers. Shift, Option, Command E. And I'm going to blur this scene. Under my filter menu, blur, Gaussian blur, and give it way too much blurring, which is perfect. Now if I zoom in, Command plus, this looks like it's ready to go to the printers. So let's change this blend mode from normal to soft light. Let's see what that does for us. there. That's about it. A little punchy. I like the sky. The water here is a little punchy, so let's see if we can't tone that down a bit. I'm going to put a layer mask on here, a white layer mask using a black brush, and my brush tool is the letter B. My foreground color is set to brush. I'm going to lower the opacity of my brush to about 50%, which means I'm just going to be painting out about 50% of this water and see what it does. Yeah, that'll be okay. That's going to be about it. This is going to get us really close to where we want to be. And if we don't like this soft light, I'm going to turn the opacity down a tad. Get that to about 50% too. And I think that'll do it. So you can see Photomatix Pro is plug and play. It's pretty much click, 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 and then do a little bit of polishing in post-processing. And we get all of the color and detail in the sky and the color and detail in the shadows. Opens up the midtones for us, as opposed to our original shot, which, let's see, would be this one. Let me just open that up. Now just open it right up and drag it into the same document. Like that. So there's our indicated exposure. That we could work with this too. And here's what three together look like. So this is a useful tool that you can add to your bag of tricks. Also, I find 3 shots work better. Sometimes I do 5, but most of the time it's 3. And you can see for yourself how this might be a tool that you can start using for your photography. Now let me get this shut down and I'll be right back. Okay, that's high dynamic range photography, processing a high dynamic range. But basically we're doing a bracketing 3 exposures, changing the exposure with our shutter speed, leaving the aperture alone because we want the depth of field to stay the same in all of the shots. Then we import those 3 images into Photomatix Pro. Photomatix Pro does all the heavy lifting for us, and until the last default page, then I select a preset which strikes my fancy at the moment and go from there. Once I save that image, then it opens into Photoshop and I polish it just a little bit further beyond in Photoshop, and that's really all there is to it. You can do this on a tripod or handheld. But if you're hand holding it, I would suggest that you look to see where you can, in your manual or on the interweb, to see if your camera has auto exposure bracketing. And if it does, turn that on and use that setting for capturing these shots that are going to be high dynamic range. Just remember to turn that auto bracketing off when you're done doing that series of pictures. But that's going to do it. If you have any questions, hey, let me know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.